So let's go on to Nicola and get you to talk again. We're going back down to smaller scale than Accor, but I'll hand over to you, Nicola.
Much smaller. So yeah, I guess I'm the NGO guy in the panel. Um, I worked for the last 18 years in the non-profit public sector. Most of my career has actually been with very large organizations. I was for 10 years at the OECD in Paris. Then I moved to the UN. I was the rep for the UN in Cambodia for 3 years. In my last job at the UN, I was #3 of the UN agency in New York. I've been writing books and teaching, etc. But I'm not here to talk about any of that. I'm going to talk about what I did in my free time in the last 15 years. And actually, 15 years ago, I founded Bandag Foundation. And actually, I'm here with Julian Stranz, who is our manager, who is really the guy that gets things done with his team every day. And I started this foundation because basically, I wanted to make sure that whatever my career was, however prestigious would it be, I wanted to make sure that there was something where I could see a direct impact of my work. And since then, that has always been the energy I've put in this project. It's not there to give me a salary or to give me any sort of notoriety. It's I want to see impact. And Julian knows very well that that's what I want Bandag to be about. So very briefly about who we support, what we do, and how we do it. So the who. So Bandag is based in Chiang Mai. The target for us are children of construction workers. So it's a very clear, very specific target. Today, as you know, in Thailand, as other countries in this region, construction is a very important sector. In the case of Thailand, more than 80%, 82%, I think, of the labor force in construction is migrant population. These migrants tend to come relatively young because of that type of work. They tend to come with kids. So today, the number we have in mind is 60,000. So in Thailand, and of course it's not a very precise number because it's not so easy, the data is not very good in this sector, but basically we can say that basically you have 60,000 kids in Thailand only that live in or around construction sites and that don't really have access to services. And by Thai law, they do have the right to have service. And by the way, these are almost entirely legal migrants. So they are legal in Thailand, their parents are working, they're registered, but de facto these kids don't go to school, they don't have access to healthcare, nor to security because they live in very unsafe environments. So we said, okay, that's gonna be our target. So what we do? So the what is basically, and this was really the realization we had after visiting with Julian and the team for many years these sites. We realized that we could turn a sort of a prison, really. If you go on, I don't know how many of you have ever been on these sites, but they all look the same, quite frankly. You can see them sometimes from a BTS in Bangkok. So you see a shopping center is coming up, or a hotel sometime, or a condo, and next to it you would see 60, 100, 200 small, iron, I wouldn't call them houses, with the workers that go out very early in the morning, they come back very tired, very late in the evening, 7 days a week, and kids running around. So these are the kids that are basically, I would say they're entrapped in that prison for years. Sometimes, the same construction site can go on for years, sometimes but basically they move from one construction site to another, no access to services. We realized that actually we could turn that in a window of opportunity because these kids, you know who they are. They're all registered, they are legal, they are all there. So very easy to reach them. So if you make the connection between them and the services they need and they have a right to access, then you are really transforming their life. So that's the what, is turning the construction site, your life of these kids into an opportunity. So the how. The how is basically, and I'm gonna focus on education here because it is actually the primary focus of our operation. The how is, we realized that we needed to be innovative and flexible basically in two things. One is the delivery of our support to these kids, and two, the partnership, which is very much the topic here. So on the delivery, I just make a couple of examples because these are a lesson learned not only from us, but when you target these very specific populations, either you are very targeted, very flexible, very precise in the way you operate, or it just doesn't work because it's a very specific population. It moves around, speaks certain languages, so you need to understand their condition. You need to adapt yourself to what they need. And basically what we did is for kids, and here I'm simplifying a bit, but basically for kids that are basically under 6 years old, we focus on non-formal education. So basically the goal here is to make sure that you prepare them for school and or that you give them what we call life skills. So basically skills that are really fundamental for their life. That can be hygiene, why it's important to wash your hands, or what is HIV/AIDS, or road safety, or whatever, but very, very critical skills that you can give to them using that window of opportunity. To do so, you need to innovate, and for instance, in this space, an example is a project that we call the Superhero Academy. We realized that it was difficult to link to get the attention of these kids, of their parents, etc. And then our social workers had this great idea. They basically transformed each of these skills. It was presented as a superpower. So you have our social workers, and it's actually very cool and fun if you see it. They go into the construction site, they're literally dressed as a superhero. And they run the whole session on a given life skill. And at the end, if the kids acquire it, et cetera, they get the superpower. And at the end of the life skills, they become a superhero. So it's just a fun way to touch upon very serious issues. And it's there because we saw it works. So another innovation that, for instance, we are introducing now is to use technology. So we realized that the personal contact between our social workers and these kids is very important, but we also realized that if we digitalize that content and we allow them to access it in the evening, to look at it again with their parents, et cetera, there are huge opportunities. So for instance, right now we're investing to digitalize that content. But this is the delivery. And the part that targets those that are in school age is basically, we call it basically an individual support program. It's very simple. We have listed each and every barrier that they had. So why are they not going to school? They have the right. And actually the answer usually is a long list of things that if you take them individually, they're all little things. They don't know where the school is, they don't speak Thai, they don't have the uniform or whatever. But all together, they make it impossible. So, but once you have that list very clear, you can come in with a protocol that tackles all the issues. You become the broker between the community and the school, and you get the kids in school. And by the way, the data there is that approximately 90% of the kids after our intervention are in school, which is a big number. And believe me, I checked it many times before quoting it. So that's the innovations we try to bring in delivery. Then the other aspect I wanted to perhaps just mention, because I'm sure there will be discussion there, is that recently we realized that we needed a much more strategic partnership with the private sector to get this thing done. And when you think of construction, it's pretty obvious. I mean, first and foremost, the construction company needs to welcome us, and it's not always the case. So you need to help them understand that it's a win-win situation, and it is a win-win situation. We have the evidence that shows that it's better for the kids, of course, but it's better also for the company if we get in and we do this thing. So the area really in which we're trying to innovate now, because you do need innovation there in terms of, for instance, how do you monitor your impact? How do you show to the company, because our colleagues here from the private sector are very quantitative. I mean, this is, for instance, my experience. You need to show the numbers. You need to show that if they let you in, and even more so if you ask them some money, that money is worth, that it's a good return on investment. So we learned also this vocabulary, which is not an NGO vocabulary. So we can speak their language now, and we understand that the more we engage with them, the more we can reach the kids. So the key to scalability for us is the partnership with the private sector. And by the way, in our case, it's not just construction companies, because we realize, and this is a very recent realization, that some of the key life skills we're trying to give are on a topic that is important to certain industries. So for instance, if we want to help the kids use the internet safely, we should partner with a tech company, because maybe they pay for it, but they can bring in the know-how. If the topic is road safety, we, for instance, contacted Piaggio and the guys that do the helmets and say, guys, maybe we could do it together, and so on. So there's a huge opportunity for us to partner with the private sector, but I don't want to tell the story only as if it was a success and it's going to be easy. It's terribly difficult, because we are speaking a different language, because there's a lack of trust, because there is not a tradition, especially in Thailand, of collaboration between corporations and NGOs, and we are aware that that we're going to make it happen, but it's going to be a big effort. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm sure there will be some discussion.